Well, we're back. Again, more breaking news. This one, a little bit surprising. Darius Slay signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Crazy.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, geez, we knew Darius Slay was likely going to go somewhere, Josh, but to the Pittsburgh Steelers was not a name that had been thrown out there just yet. And so he stays in the state of Pennsylvania and just moves down the street a little bit there to go to another playoff contender. Pittsburgh's very interesting right now. Aaron Rodgers seems to be kind of the next likely domino to fall there as Justin Fields officially a Jet. But Darius Slay is done, and the Eagles' era of a really great cornerback the past couple of years is over, and they are very clearly transitioning to a much younger secondary in the National Football League. They already were one of the youngest defenses in the NFL, but this whole idea of, okay, if you get Isaiah Rodgers, you let Darius Slay walk. If you let Isaiah Rodgers walk, you bring back Darius Slay. Not the case. Both cornerbacks gone, and Philadelphia, as of 2:53 p.m. Eastern time right now, yet to sign anybody, and as we kind of expected, they would lose a lot, and they're losing pretty much everybody right now.
Yeah. And again, there's the report officially for people wondering. I would imagine, I know that some individuals may be pointing out, Jordan Schultz breaking, others confirming, but said that Milton Williams ended up being the Panther, or the Patriots, not the Panthers, like you said, but there's one among many. I just grabbed one because some post with pictures and others do not, so at least you see that. But Darius Slay, yes, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did find that it was a little bit, I don't know, hilarious, ironic. I don't know necessarily what we'd phrase it as, but the fact that he got into the Darnell Washington scrum fight, and that's yet the team that he's going to go to. So, you deal with that, but there were also other things happening in Philly of maybe not the best friendly signs of social media drama and all that over the past few days. It goes back and forth. Who knows if that had any playing part in it? I know that some people are speculating all this other stuff. Either way, we're not getting into it, but the fact that he's moving on, it does signify the youth movement. We were talking about Kelee Ringo 30 minutes ago, at the time of the recording, 30 minutes ago, of just saying hey, maybe there's a chance that Slay does come back because Isaiah Rodgers signed with the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, that's not going to happen there, but Slay was good. He was really good. When he was out there on the field, he was 14th, 15th in terms of coverage grade among all corners this season. He had a really solid year. He can still play at that level. I mean, I think we've seen that all the way up until the Super Bowl. So he may have a good year. But again, there's an element of he wanted a lot of money. Go get what you can for one final season. More credit to you. Can't knock him for that. Go get your bag. But Philly was drawing a line in the sand. And unlike 2023, you didn't have any backup plans. You didn't have anybody else. So when Slay was headed out the door for Baltimore, it was like, yeah, Big Dom calls him. And I know the joke of the story is Big Dom called him and he convinced him to go. It was Big Dom called him, but it's also the contract matched it. The contract was worth it for him to return because Philly needed it. This season, they don't. They have, as everyone knows, they have Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Kelee Ringo, who they feel very highly about. Christian Parker's spoken about him. So, yeah, it's an ultimate move on the era from Slay, but he did help the Eagles. And no matter, I've been very critical of Slay, but no matter how you feel about Slay, his performance on the field, I'll say nothing else about anything else, but the performance on the field definitely helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl. So congratulations, Slay got his bag. Over to Pittsburgh.
Well, you're talking about the play on the field. I'll talk about off the football field. And last week wasn't a good look overall in terms of going on the podcast and seemingly ripping C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then they went back and forth on Twitter. I think a lot of Eagle fans are going to be at peace with this move. Now, if you would have brought back Darius Slay, all we would have talked about was, well, he was great last year, and so bring him back for one final season. Let's pray Father Time doesn't catch up to him. But with him being gone, we can all kind of admit what a lot of Eagle fans felt throughout the course of this season. Darius Slay tended to talk a little bit too much, and whether you like athletes with podcasts or not, him going on Micah Parsons' podcast and kind of throwing shade at his own players. And then recently, not only the C.J. Gardner-Johnson, not ranking Jalen Hurts as a top 5 quarterback, not picking Smitty over Prime Odell Beckham. There were a lot of signs pointing to Darius Slay not returning to the Philadelphia Eagles. And so you're going to miss his production on the football field. That is true. Health was a major factor, I think, in this decision. I'm sure we're waiting on the actual details of how much money this is going to cost the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Philadelphia got to watch Darius Slay all season long, and they made the assumption that can he actually play 17, 18, 19 games in 2025? They probably told themselves no. And so with that being said, it's a loss. But I think so far, even though the Philadelphia Eagles have been complacent and not signing anybody as of 2:57 p.m. Eastern time as the clock continues to tick, they expected all of this. I don't think any of this has been a shock to the Eagles, and I think most Eagle fans need to understand that sooner rather than later.
Yes. Yep. And again, I think that the vast majority, I'm seeing people on the comment section here. I believe that the vast majority are in that similar boat. There's a few go back and forth. I know it's very polarizing, usually talking about Slay. The 5 from Josh, though, says don't like it, but don't hate it. At least he's going to an AFC team. That's true. There were rumors of Detroit and one other team. I forgot. Detroit and I can't remember now. There's one other NFC team. But yes, it's going to AFC. John with a 5 also says we'll be fine. Howie knows what he's doing. Go Birds. That is true.
Agree.
Trusting in Howie. He's
totally agree.
Usually on it. There's been a few hit or miss opportunities within free agency, but for the most part, course correction, know what you're doing. You got your youth and your secondary last season, so we'll be all right. And as people mentioned on the stream a second ago, we were talking about Isaiah Rodgers. Give some time to the Philly Dogs, and they have kind of course corrected and been a little bit better in a situation. So, yeah, if it is Kelee Ringo, give him an opportunity. They're going to be okay. Personally, regardless of play style on the field, because you brought it up with the podcast part, but I am happy about this just because I don't want any distractions. So C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I said it on one of the shows last week, but it's if C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's already on your team. That's not changing. He is on your roster. Darius Slay is not. So whether or not you want to say, oh, it's more of CJ's fault, it's more of Slay's fault, it's a combination, whatever, don't need the distraction. Just move on. Yeah. You're good. Again, you don't need to sign him back here. He still played at a good level, but move on a little bit further west, and good luck to him, I suppose.
And I think we got to keep reiterating that this is very clearly a 2023 type offseason. Philadelphia, fresh off a Super Bowl in 2022, they go into 2023. And it was a couple of moves later on, not necessarily right as free agent hit. Remember, Terrell Edmonds was one of those safety signings. You need a little depth there. Nicholas Morrow, Marcus Mariota. And then eventually they were Greedy Williams. A lot of really cheap contracts on people who had been other places with the hope that maybe they can turn into something. And I think you're going to see a lot of that over the coming days. Will Philadelphia make a move today? We're hoping for Mekhi Becton. That still seems to be in play. There's been zero reports on any other teams talking to him right now, and I'm sure his agent is doing that. But I think you just got to understand where the Eagles are at. 2022, they lost key players, but they knew they were going to be able to have a very good draft, and they felt very confident after the 2022 season that they could turn things around. It felt like coaching and lack of leadership that sunk that football team. They were still great, through 12, 13 games, beat the Bills, beat the Chiefs. And I think the Eagles are banking on the fact that they have the coaching in place now. They have the young talent and leadership that they want, and they don't want to go out and blow the checkbook wide open in order to go get some overpriced free agent. And this has been kind of the MO of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, go back to last season, they spent a little bit more money, but even a Saquon Barkley contract of $13 million a year at the time was not breaking the bank. So this is kind of par for the course over the past couple of seasons with Howie Roseman, and something will happen. They will spend some money. I just think it's going to take a little bit longer than people want. And again, when it comes down to Darius Slay, Josh, everything he did, appreciate it. He got the contract. It's exactly what I've always wanted him to do, be a Super Bowl champion in Philadelphia, but now he gets his final deal, and hopefully he plays well with the Steelers, and he goes to the AFC. So if he balls out and it's an all-pro and gets 6.5 picks, or not a half picks, 6, 7 picks, it won't really matter.
Yeah, he'll be fine. You're not going to play him as much, or not as relevancy within the NFC like we've been mentioning. So, and I know lots of people continual like Mekhi Becton, get that deal. What's happened with Josh Sweat? Seeing the comments. News is flying, and thankfully X is back up and cooperating at the moment, so we should be able to stay up to date. A couple others being like, Sergeant Pepper saying, yeah, LOL, starting the stream right back up. Might as well just do a full day stream. We've considered that, but it's
no thanks.
Usually, maybe this is a good thing for us or a bad thing. I'm not sure, but every time that it's like, okay, hey, we're wrapping up, then another move happens. So, and then other times we've extended it, and then like, okay, there's nothing that's taking place. So, do we have an effect on it? Probably not. But that's usually how it goes. But it also makes it little bite-sized. Just kind of, okay, hey, what's the reaction to this move? What's the reaction to that move? We still have the regular Wednesday link, which is a little bit more long form, but yeah, just hopping on for the big moves and keeping everyone up to date. Eagle One, I hate this time of year. They become family, then get picked off. Good luck, Slay. There you go. Yeah. See, we could absolutely say good luck, Slay, and wish you well. Yeah, there's guys that move on. We're okay.
Well, it's true, but none of these guys are the only reason the Eagles won a Super Bowl. They've lost nobody so far on offense, and even if you lose Becton, you have a backup plan in Tyler Steen. And defensively, you've lost a backup cornerback who a lot of us wanted to have the opportunity to start, but obviously you don't want to pay him $8 million a year. That's the Eagles' decision. You lose a starting cornerback who's 34 years old, has run his mouth a little bit too much in some Eagle fans' mind, at least, on his podcast, inside the locker room, whatever it may say, and probably got overpaid waiting on the contract details from the Steelers. And you lose Milton Williams, so you were always going to lose, right? And we all thought it would be $20, $21, $22 million a year. The Patriots gave him $26 million a year. He's the third highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL now, Josh. Like, these are all... This is how NFL free agency works. People get way overvalued contracts. Very rarely do they actually live up to it, like a Saquon Barkley did. I think Bryce Huff last year got $17 million. It looks like an absolute bust. And I think the Eagles, in this grand turnover that is Howie Roseman, who once spent a lot in free agency, is now focusing more on the NFL draft and also realizes he has two aces in his back pocket in the current Eagles roster and guys that are signed through 2028.
Yeah. It's there's let's see, Cole Cash with the 2 also is gonna again, this is going back and forth because there's some of supporting, some of not. Said Slay went from contender to pretender, respectfully.
Probably so, but he probably got more money. So that's probably the factor there. And a lot of these guys get their ring, and once you get that one ring, then it's like, okay, I'm going to go get one final $8 million, $9 million, $10 million a year contract. Peace out. See ya if you're Darius Slay and older. Mm-hmm. Or if you're Milton Williams, you're going to go get your one big contract, 4-year, $26 million a year. The same likely happening with Josh Sweat. And that's just how the National Football League works. And so it's not really a surprise that any of this has happened so far.
No, it is certainly not, because we expected that. Slay said on, like 2 or 3 different shows or recordings or whatever that he would love to come back to Philly, but the number has to be right. And so you knew with it being his final season, he's already got the Super Bowl. It's not necessarily like, oh, I want to go chase a championship, because you have that already. Get one last, as much as you can, move on. So we'll see officially if we get the details. I don't know. I've tried to refresh. I haven't seen a tweet for what the actual contract numbers are.
We don't know.
Okay. It's always interesting, though, because sometimes we get them very quickly, which is, like Isaiah Rodgers was announced he's signing and the whole deal. Like, it was everything. So the 2 years, $15 million with Minnesota. Have not seen anything for that. But obviously for Milton Williams, like you mentioned, the crazy astronomical number. I mean, I can only imagine what other players, Jalen Carter's still a ways away. Yes, because you got to go through the whole season, then he's eligible. But if Milton Williams, no offense, if he's getting that number, you just I can't even fathom what a Jalen Carter type contract looks like. It's crazy.
30 million plus. I mean, it's going to be massive. Yeah. Massive. And the fact that, this is just one of the better free agent defensive tackles. Imagine the best defensive tackle, maybe best defensive lineman, when it's all said and done, when his contract is up. It's going to be a big number. Very big.
Got to pay for number. Absolutely. Daniel, speaking of the D-line, with the 2, said 2 words for you, Moro Ajomo. So there you go, Daniel. We were talking about it a second ago, but he's got opportunity.
They have replacement people ready to go for all these losses. Moro Ajomo, Kelee Ringo, Tyler Steen, if they were to go ahead and lose, Mekhi Becton. That is the beauty of how well they've drafted the past couple of years, especially in the later rounds, right? Moro Ajomo is like a 6th or 7th round draft pick who, sometimes don't even make the roster 2 years down the line, let alone be probably a starter, snap one, day one, game one on a Thursday night this coming September against who knows what, but obviously on the starting defensive line when the front four gets things going in Philadelphia.
Yes, and also I would just say this too. There's not a vast majority. Just going back to a couple of these moves, not even necessarily just Slay, but like, oh, okay, Slay's gone, Isaiah Rodgers. Seen a few comments of like, man, I don't feel good about this, or I hate this. This move's, awful, whatever. But we do have to remember, like you were saying, Thomas, it's not a surprise, but it's also how he tried to, as best he can, kind of preemptively warn the fan base and all of us to be like, hey, look, just give us some time. Like, have some patience. There's going to be some things that probably happen that might surprise some people, or be in a little bit of unconventional wisdom or something else. But he's maintained and said all along, any player that's available, any option that's available, we are going to look into. So there will be no stone left unturned. Yeah. But it may take some time. So perhaps that's Mekhi Becton. I've seen a few comments already. When is Mekhi Becton being out? It may be later, as the Amazon deliveries here and the dogs are barking. But don't freak out like them. It's going to be okay.
I totally agree.
I'll try to read this next super chat here and maybe go on mute. Brandon with a 5. What if the Eagles get Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons? Think about it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like that's going to be likely now. I think we put all those rumors to bed. Those rumors were based on the Myles Garrett rumor because there's been no actual linking of Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons to Philadelphia, despite Micah Parsons seemingly wanting to be an Eagle every time he talks about our Philadelphia Eagles. But those seem to be pretty much dead, and it's really due to the fact that the market is it's hot right now. And if you're going to trade for Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons, you're paying them at least $40 million a year to match Myles Garrett, but most likely 41 or 42 or $43 million a year. And Philadelphia doesn't feel comfortable doing that because they clearly are very, very happy with what they have at the edge rusher spot right now, plus maybe a cheap one-year deal for a guy in the coming hours or days, plus a draft pick, all of which will be a lot cheaper than trading draft capital and then signing Trey Hendrickson. Obviously the same for Micah Parsons. And the Parsons one in particular, the Cowboys are not trading Micah Parsons to the Philadelphia Eagles, and it would take multiple first-round draft picks, and Howie's not going to do it.
Yeah, it's there's so many different elements into that. The beauty is, though, that the Cowboys have taken so much time that their price continues to go up. And if you look at almost every single contract that they sign, they wait and let the market reset itself and then go, oh, shoot, now we probably better pay, our quarterback and our wide receiver and now Micah Parsons. So from the outside looking in, it hurts them there. But as far as a trade or, that's just... There's no way you're going to that type of a magnitude, especially with the deals that some of these guys are getting signed. Yeah. Yes, Alex, you've got a good ear. That was a dachshund. It's a mini dachshund, but yes, that is the bark that you heard. So he freaks out anytime there's a delivery. The S box with a 5. Appreciate that. Off topic, but Kenny Gainwell is also a free agent this year. If we don't keep him, who would you want instead? I like Foreman, Hunt, or Mason.
Yeah, I don't mind either of those. I do think that they like Will Shipley. I think that that's very, very, obvious. I think that they'll probably draft somebody as well. That feels very, very. I mean, we keep saying they're going to draft a corner, they're going to draft a defensive end, they're going to draft a defensive tackle, they're going to draft a running back. That all seems to be true. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if Kenny Gainwell decides to come back. Not a bad spot to be. I know Saquon obviously dominates the overall carries, but if Saquon, knock on wood, were to have an injury, then the number 2 back gets to be the feature back behind the best offensive line in football, and then maybe you make more money because you were able to prove yourself on, in a more starting capacity. So I wouldn't rule that out as well because we know a backup running back in the NFL is a pretty cheap commodity, and so not having to break the bank to bring back Kenny Gainwell is still probably on the books or in the cards right now.
I was thinking that possible, but then did you see the Samaje Perine deal?
Yeah,
the Bucks, that one, I don't know, 3 years, $22 million. I feels like Kenny Gainwell could get more than that potentially.
Maybe.
There's never, we never say no. And he might want to be returned to Philly, but there's also a possibility I'm seeing if Kenny's got a chance to go, and even if it's kind of a 50-50 split in some sort of backfield, maybe not necessarily the number 1, but a lot more carries and opportunity there. I could see him where, okay, hey, I go get an opportunity, get close to 8-9 million a year. I mean, running back market's odd because no one's going to pay anybody, and then all of a sudden now you're going to pay $7-8 million a year for a guy that is just kind of a consummate backup. So I don't know, not impossible, but we'll see.
Yep.
Okay. Did we just get some more news? I think we did.
No.
Someone just said.
What did they say? Oh,
Josh
Sweat to the Cardinals. Is that official?
Did we get that official?
Is that official? I have not seen that yet.
I'm refreshing this. Why is someone saying Josh Sweat?
The Cardinals would like Josh Sweat, but there it is. Adam Schefter's got it. $76 million 4-year deal. Josh Sweat.
Okay.
Big one.
Wow.
Big one.
It is official. Okay, so as we normally do, because these are bite-sized recaps and everything, this one is for Slay, so we're going to wrap here. We'll jump back on here in just a split second, cover the Josh Sweat news, the deal, hopefully gather some other info, official part, and look at the draft compensatory picks and everything else. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with that stream. See you guys in a bit. Go Birds.